This is my fabric, each one for one pocket, and I'm gonna use this denim as a base. That way we have different color and we can see better what we are doing. And these are my 3 patterns. Both of them aren't mine. I found it while sleuthing through the internet. And the third one, the accordion, is mine. I wanted to explain this one because there are not too many tutorials about it. Let's start with the easiest, the pleated patch pocket. I'm gonna use this denim, as I told you, as a base. It's a raw denim. It's pretty strong, so it will give us a nice base. And it's looking good too, right? As you might know, I always prefer to press my material before I work on it. See that this pattern is so well done? The parts of the pleats that will go in are marked with the double cross line. And everything in general is very well marked. I'm gonna make a notch in all my lines. That way it will be easier to mark my pockets later. And after pressing the fabric, I'm gonna cut my pocket. I'm using an old sheet, and I hope that I pronounced that well. I'm putting the fabric double for the flap, and then I'm gonna use a single for the pocket. And I think it's a good idea as well to cut one piece of interfacing for the flap. Some of my colleagues cut 2, so I guess that it depends of the result you are looking for. I prefer just 1, and I always cut it a little smaller than the pattern. I'm marking now all the lines. As you can see, there are many, and they are all important. The notches I did helped me so much with that. But about the lines, I just prefer to mark the most important line that goes in the center, that it will define the front pleat. And there are 2 main ways to do it. I'm gonna show you both of them. One of them is by sewing the pleats. So I'm marking more or less until the hem at the top part and the hem and the bottom part comes. And now I'm marking where my pocket is. I'm just marking it myself, but usually when you have any pattern, the pattern will tell you where you have to place the pocket. Now I'm gonna make my pleats by stitching like you would do in a skirt, for example. I'm stitching just a little bit until the marks I did, and my pleats is pretty much done. This is a very nice and easy way to do it. But another way is to stitch down where the first pleat comes. It's like a crease that you are gonna do with your sewing machine. And then you are gonna fold, and instead of sewing as the first time, I'm gonna just fold the edges. And as you can see, I have them both together, and I'm gonna use the last one just because this is what the original pattern is asking you to do. Now pretty much it's very easy. Now you need to search or to make a little fold and fold again. You search and fold, or you fold and fold. Whatever is easier. This was for the top part, and now I'm folding the rest of the edges, and then I'm gonna fold and press the rest of the edges, so it will be so easy to patch pocket my pocket. I just have to go all around, and that's it. For the flap, I'm just gonna sew. Usually the seam allowance is about 1/4 inch. This one, because I make the pattern bigger, it was smaller. It's a little bigger, but it doesn't matter. And I'm gonna cut in the excess of material. And for the corners, I think I have shown you that trick before. I'm gonna link that video if you haven't watched them. But as you can see, I'm just using one thread that I'm inserting in between the stitch corner, because when I turn my flap, I just have to pull those threads and I will have perfect corners. Paper cuts. Now I just need to iron them, and then I'm gonna top stitch. Are you enjoying this video so far? Make sure to give it a like and comment. Your support boosts this video, which helps me keep sharing free sewing tips. I also have 2 other channels, so make sure to subscribe to them so that you don't miss any posts. If you want to take your sewing to the next level, I've created 2 in-depth e-courses, so don't forget to check them out and keep growing your sewing skills with me. To close it, you can do whatever you want, this Velcro or Velcro snaps, but today I'm gonna go a little more classic and I'm going to make a buttonhole. I'm marking from where to where I want the buttonhole, but you know, with those machines, you just have to give them the width of the button and they just make them right. Please let me know in the comment if you will be interested in making the buttonholes with the machine. Now I'm gonna sew the flap and I'm gonna cut the excess of material and then I'm gonna fold and sew again so my flap will be completely clean. And lastly, I'm gonna sew the button. And here you go, my first pocket is done. Look at that, isn't it looking good? I love it. Maybe the flap is a little bit big. I don't know. I didn't do the pattern. I don't know what the consideration was. But anyways, it looks cute, cute, cute. Let's go with my box split pocket. The seam allowance seems a little bigger because, as I told you, it was smaller. So I make it bigger and the seam allowance got bigger. And I added as well a pattern for a coquette bow. I just giving you options. You can use anything to close it, but I'd like to try on the coquette. I'm cutting my fabric. Again, 1 piece for the pocket and 2 pieces for the flap. And I'm gonna make a little knot where the pockets finish because I want to mark the whole pattern on my piece of fabric. So for that, look what I'm doing. I'm gonna cut what will be the seam allowance all around. And I'm gonna cut my darts too. I'm gonna cut just one part and then I'm gonna fold it. And that way I can mark completely my pattern, including the darts and everything on my fabric. That make it more accurate and it's easier, right? So now I can cut the excess of material because that was too much. And as the pattern says, I'm gonna serge the top edges. And now I can make the darts as marked. And then I'm gonna fold the top edge just to finish that part. Now I'm gonna fold my pocket, but because of the shape, it makes it a little bit difficult. So just to make it easier, I'm gonna stitch all around just besides the original seam. And I'm gonna pull a little bit of that thread to make easier the folding part. And then I can press it with the iron. I want to close that pocket with Velcro. So I'm going to cut 1 piece of Velcro and I'm going to stitch it to my pocket. And I'm going to stitch it as well to the flap. And I'm preparing the flap the same way I did before. I'm ironing on the interfacing. And I'm making all my marks and sewing the Velcro. And then I'm gonna turn this. This one is just like a rectangle flap instead of the other one, but you do exactly the same. Then I'm gonna sew the edges of my pocket as I did before. And now let's go to the fun part. Let's prepare the bow. I fold my fabric and I sew just the extreme. And then I move that seam to the center and I'm gonna stitch it down. This will be the top part of my bow. Then I'm gonna take the other part and I'm gonna do exactly the same. And finally, I'm gonna take the third part to attach the bow. This is more or less the way it will look. Yes, I'm gonna use a white thread because, you know. So I'm gonna take what will be the center of my bow and I'm gonna stitch it to the flap. And I'm gonna take my needle and I'm gonna kind of sew the center of my bow in both sides like a little bit wider spread. That way it will look nice when I finish my bow. Yes, a thimble. Now as you can see, I'm just wrapping up my bow around the third piece and I'm gonna stitch to secure it at the top of the flap. And now I'm gonna sew the flap the same way I did before. And my bow is formed, and I'm just stitching down the corners of the bow. So when you wash your pants or whatever is your garment, the bow more or less will stay in place. And here you go. This is my pocket, and it's looking cute, huh? I know, probably too cute to be serious. Cuteness is my weapon. Let's go to the third one, the accordion pocket. I'm gonna place it on my fabric and I cut it, but before I cut it completely, I just wanted to show you that this is just a regular square that we stitch the corners to make the accordion. Okay, I'm making sure to mark my pockets as the pattern as well. And I'm gonna cut out now the parts that weren't there. And I'm gonna go to my sewing machine and I'm gonna fold the pocket by the corner. And I'm gonna stitch the square as marked, like that. Oh, that color, you cannot see it very well. Ooh, you see? I took out the bobbin on time. I'm gonna sew the other side as well. And now I'm gonna cut the excess of material and I'm gonna cut the corners too. It's very important for the accordion to open. Now I'm giving it the shape. I'm making sure to open the seam allowance. And I'm gonna fold my pockets by the lines that are marked. I'm ironing, but what you can do as well is to stitch it like we did with the first pocket. Now I'm gonna sew the top part by folding my material twice, and I have my pockets all ready to sew it to the fabric. Always, it's very important to reinforce the corners of the pocket so your pocket doesn't open too easily. And that's it. I have my accordion pocket ready. For securing the flap, I'm gonna use a buckle this time. I have to check what goes down and what goes up. I'm gonna sew my flap just to make sure that I have everything. And I'm gonna now sew the strap to the bottom of my pocket the same way I sew the flap with the French way, which is English, by the way. And I'm gonna sew the strap to the other side of my buckle. And I'm gonna make sure to sew it with the flap. As I said before, I'm just giving you ideas. And I close my pocket, and here you go. This pocket, isn't it cute, cute, cute? The young people will say, slay! I should have used this fabric for the bow and the bow fabric for this one, but you know the technique, which is the most important. And here you go. These are my 3 pockets. I particularly like the last one the most, but please let me know in the comments which one did you like the most. And if you find this video useful or entertaining, please give us a hype, give us a like, and don't forget to subscribe, share, comment. Bye!